All right, well, good morning. Good to see everyone today. We're going to begin a brand new series today, and it's titled, Be a Finisher. Be a finisher. We should want to be a finisher. In Scripture, the Christian life is often compared to a race. That's what the Hebrew writer does here. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. And so here the Hebrew writer likens the Christian life to a race. And we're supposed to run this race with endurance all the way to the end. And so in this race, which is called the Christian life, it requires endurance. It requires grit. In this race called the Christian life, it's not how you start, or even if you stumble along the way. It's a matter of whether you finish or not. So let me ask you, how do you want your grave marker to read? This is how I want mine to read. Ray Rose, born again, December 29th, 1982. Finished the race, 20. Don't know what those last two numbers are there. Could be 26. Don't know, right? Could be 27, 28. I don't know, but I just know that I want to finish the race. I don't want to just run halfway and then quit, right? I mean, you run a race to complete the race, to finish the race. I want to be a finisher. And the Bible is full of finishers. Jesus was a finisher. On the cross in John 19:30, cried out, "It is finished." What's finished? God's will is finished. That's what he came to do. And he completed it. Paul was a finisher. While in prison, awaiting his execution, he wrote, this is in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6, 7, and 8. He says, "For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the course. I have kept the faith. In the future, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing." Paul was a finisher. Abraham was a finisher. He stumbled along the way, did he not? Yeah, remember the whole Hagar situation? Yeah, he stumbled along the way, but he finished strong. Moses was a finisher. Remember, he's a little bit disobedient. Didn't get to go into the promised land, but nonetheless, he was a finisher. Stumbled along the way. We all stumbled. Joshua was a finisher. But not all who run the race finish. In fact, many who enter the race never finish. They get derailed by one thing or another. Judas didn't finish the race, right? Hymenaeus and Alexander, spoken of in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 20. Their faith was derailed. John 6:66 records these sad words. This is Jesus. And when Jesus said, "Unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you." This is how many responded. As a result of this, many of his disciples withdrew and were not walking with him anymore. They dropped out of the race. Our directory has people in it who've dropped out of the race. And we need to do whatever we can to get them back in the race again. That's what we're supposed to do. You see, the statistics of those who finish the race is very, very low. If you listen to Jesus, Jesus tells a parable called the parable of the soils. You remember that? Only one was saved, and the other 3 were lost. 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4. Many who enter the race drop out of the race. How many of those who left Egypt from 20 and up finished the race? 2. Joshua and Caleb. All the others died out in the wilderness. They didn't run the race to complete it. Jesus said, "For many are called, but few are chosen." Matthew 22, verse 14. A Bible professor gave these words to an aspiring preacher. He said, "Stay true to Jesus. Make sure that you keep your heart close to Jesus every day. It's a long way from here to where you are going, and Satan is in no hurry to get you." Those are wise words. We need to be alert to the fact that we do have an enemy. And he is doing everything in his power to get us to drop out of the race. And so Peter gives us these encouraging words. He says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour." You know, I've used this illustration before, but I'll use it again. Satan's compared to a lion, a roaring lion, a lion that's about to attack, right? That's the picture we have of our enemy. So imagine if a circus was going through town and there was a wreck, and the cage that caged the lions got out, and they told everybody needed, watch out. As you roam around, be careful because there are lions roaming around the town. Would you not be looking for them? Yeah, if you knew they were in your area, would you not be looking for them? Absolutely you would be looking for them. You don't want to be eaten by one, right? Well, Satan is a roaring lion. That's one of the pictures. He seeks to kill and to destroy. That's what he does. Paul says over in Ephesians 6:13, "Wherefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand." So we have these warnings over and over and over again about the enemy. Be careful. Be careful. He's so good at getting people sidetracked. He's so good at getting people to jump out of the race or get out of the race. There's some people who think, well, it's just too late for them. There's no way they can finish. They've made some serious ethical or moral choices that have caused them to lose their credibility with their family and their friends, and maybe they lost their job over it or something of that sort. And they just think, there's no way I can finish the race. This was a huge moral failure on my part. There are people who think that. But you can still run the race. You don't have to quit because you have a moral failure. There are lots of people. I already named people who had moral failures, and yet they completed the race. Listen, it's never too late to start doing what's right. And as long as you're breathing, it's never too late to confess your sin to God and ask His forgiveness and get back in the race again. That's what we're supposed to do. But Satan doesn't want us to do this. Just because we've fallen down, it doesn't mean that we can't get back up again and start running, right? I don't know. I've stumbled many a times along the journey in this race. I've not run a perfect race. By no means have I run a perfect race. I am a fallible human being. And I need to stay close to God. And I need to be aware of the enemy. Because if I lose sight of those things, I get into trouble. And you will too. Finishing the race does not mean being unblemished. Finishing doesn't mean that you're perfect. How many biblical characters stumbled and then finished? And finished well? What about Noah? Yeah, Noah stumbled, did he not? He decided to grow some grapes. And then he decided, well, he could make some liquor, alcohol from those grapes. And he got drunk. Right? We know the story. We know what happened. But he ran the race all the way to the end. And the Bible says he was a righteous preacher. Abraham stumbled, gave in to his wife, didn't trust God, went into his handmaid, begot a child through her, thinking this is what God's will is. When God clearly told him, no, it's going to come from your loins. It's going to come through Sarah. David stumbled along the way, did he not? After committing adultery, he then commits murder. But he didn't fall and stay down. He got back up, read Psalm 51, and listen to David's penitential psalm as he begs God to forgive him. He got back in the race. What about Peter? He denied Jesus. He told, the religious leaders, I don't know this Jesus. He told a Roman, I don't know this Jesus. I don't know who you're talking about. Imagine that. And he just knew he wasn't going to fall. There was no way he could fall. He made that clear. All the others might, but I won't. He was the first guy. So, the Bible's full of people who fell, but they got back up again and they continued the race. Hopefully your heart is, I want to run the race and I want to finish. Well, in order to do that, there are three things that we must do. Number one, we need to lay aside every encumbrance and every sin. If you're going to run this race and finish, you got to do this. So first of all, he says, lay aside. You can look at this as one thing. Encumbrance and sin, and you can see them as one, but I'm breaking them up. I think they're two. Lay aside every encumbrance. Now, many translations will have weight. Does your translation have weight? Every weight? You got to be careful, because if you're a runner, weight is your enemy. You do not want weight. You want the lightest shoes on the planet. You want the lightest shorts that you could possibly get. The lightest shirt that you could possibly get. You want to run light. You do not want to run heavy. You do not want to run heavy. If you run heavy, you're not going to complete the race. If you're good at running a mile, try putting 2 5-pound dumbbells in your hand and run that mile. See how well you do. Or better yet, if you're a long-distance runner, do 10. Do 10 miles with those weights in your hand. See what happens. I'll bet you don't complete the 10 miles. I'll bet you that. I know you won't. Because the weight, it won't let you. It won't let you complete. So what are the weights? Well, I think many things that are good on their own. Hunting, fishing, sports, football, baseball, soccer, hockey, whatever your sport is. Those kinds of things. Racquetball. I mean, Teresa can tell you, I have that personality, but when I get on something, I'm on it. And I stay on it until I jump onto something else. And then I get on that train and I'm on it and on it and on it, but I'm going to something else. And I'm real good with doing that. There are things that just get me and I get locked on them. Fishing was, for a long time in my life, a way. Ain't nothing wrong with fishing. Fishing's good. And fish tastes good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good, wholesome activity for any family to do. But if you choose to be there rather than here, that's not a good activity. If you choose to devote all your time and all your energy to your weight rather than to Jesus, to running this race, you're not going to complete it. You're not going to finish. So we have to be very, very careful, and we have to really take a look in our life and say, do I have any weights? Are there things in my life that just dominate me? I give more to it or them than anything else in my life. That's what I'm talking about. That's a weight. Going fishing is fine. Watching a football game is fine. But if you're watching football 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, you're watching too much football. And I realize, but you can watch, clips, and I watch sometimes old games, going back in Ohio State history. I don't know how many times I've watched all their championship games. Just, you can do whatever you want on YouTube, right? You can pull up any football game you want to pull up. And you can watch that stuff all day long, every day. But if that's what you do, then that's a weight. That's a weight. Because all your energy is in that thing. Whatever that is to you. We have to be careful. Do you have a weight? Is there something in your life that's just dominating? You know if it's just an activity you engage in or it's dominating. It controls you. When you don't have any control of it, you just give your all to it. That's a weight. That's a weight. There are people, like I said, love to hunt and fish, and I know people go to the lake for, like 7, 8, 9, 10 weekends during the year. And out there on the lake. Now, I know that on the lake, you, as a family, you could have a worship service. You really could do that. And there's nothing wrong with even doing that. Nothing wrong with doing that. Family get together at a beautiful lake, have a little worship service, then go fishing. Nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing to do. But if you find yourself, that's all that you do, then it's an encumbrance. It's a weight. And you have to be careful because it's what you think about. It's what you live for. It's what you can't wait to do. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, we all have weights. We just need to recognize what weight we're talking about and deal with it. Remember, Satan is patient. He's patient. He's patient. You don't care if he gets you today, next week, or next year, or 10 years from now. He's going to keep on keeping on. And he's going to get you when you're not looking, when you're not ready. But we're supposed to be ready, right? All these scriptures tell us to be ready, to endure to the end. But then he says, lay aside every weight and every sin. Every sin. Now, we all have sin in our lives. There's no person that can stand in this auditorium today and say, I don't have sin. Because 1 John 1:8 says, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. Right? So we can't say that. We have it. What we need to do is recognize, though, is this sin in my life, am I allowing it to continue? Am I allowing it to grow? And I believe that all of us have what I call a besetting sin. I think every person has a sin in their life that is really controlling and really dominating and really, really difficult to get out of your life. John said all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Boy, he's right. There's a whole lot of lust in the world. Is there not? There's lust for possessions and things. And it's controlling. People live for that. It's what they plan to do every day. I'm going to get more of this, and I'm going to buy a bigger home, and I'm going to get a nicer car, and I'm going to wear better clothes, and I'm going to keep on keeping on. That's what I'm going to do. And not realizing that you're dealing with lust. And Paul says in Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 5 that covetousness is idolatry. So those things become an idol in your life. They become an idol. You literally are bowing to them. You're giving your allegiance to them. And you're choosing them over God. We need to deal with sin in our lives. I've said before, you know, as a young Christian, there were lots of stuff I had to deal with. I mean, I had a huge mess of stuff to deal with. But there was a lot of stuff that just went right away. Just went right away. I didn't have to worry about it. And it wasn't a struggle. You know, I just made a choice. I wasn't going to do that no more, and I didn't do it anymore. But there's been some other things in my life that's kind of had a stranglehold. If you know what I'm talking about. It's that sin that just keeps showing up. Just keeps showing up. It's so hard to just get free from it. That's the thing that we need to get out of our life. And we have the ability to do that. The Holy Spirit helps us do that. Romans chapter 8, verse 13. You know, through the Spirit, we put to death the deeds of the body. There's no sin in your life that you can't eradicate if you choose to do so. The problem is we choose our sin over our God on many occasions. So if we're going to run this race, we've got to lay aside every weight, lay aside sin, recognize sin in your life, deal with that, and God will help you put it out of your life, and you can run the race. Number 2, we need to run with endurance. The quality that people often lack is endurance. Endurance is what separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls. It's endurance that determines whether a person finishes or not. You see, the Christian life is not a 100-yard dash. It is a marathon. It is a long race. And long races require not speed, but determination and grit. And that's what we have to have. So many people, they encounter hardship in life, and they quit. They quit. Rather than enduring, suffering a little persecution or whatever it is, we just quit. You got to run with endurance. You got to have that determination and grit, and when life gets hard, you have to keep on running even though life is hard. And there may be times you don't want to run the race, but you got to continue to run that race, because what's the alternative? Right? What's the alternative? That's unthinkable. So we got to stay in the race, no matter how difficult, no matter how tough life gets for us. You got to keep on running. And then lastly, I'll finish. Looking unto Jesus. The writer says he's the author, he's the finisher of our faith. Here's the question. How did Jesus run his race? See, we're supposed to be looking to him. Right? He ran this race already. He finished the race. So we're supposed to be looking to him. If you want to know how to run it, the best thing to do is look to Jesus. He's the author and finisher of faith. And so how did he run his race? You know, very early on as a young child, you remember at the temple when he said, I must be about my Father's business. At 12. Then during his ministry, you see Jesus says, I came to do the will of the Father who sent me. Over and over and over, Jesus said, I'm going to go to Jerusalem, and I'm going to be delivered to the chief priests and the scribes, and I'm going to be crucified, and I'm going to rise the third day. And Peter's like, no, you ain't. And Jesus said, get behind me, Satan. Yes, I am. And he went to the cross. He knew why he had come. And he didn't stray. He ran that race straight all the way to the end. We can learn from Jesus. We can learn from Jesus to have the same determination and grit that Jesus had, because it says he endured for the joy that was set before him. You ever ask yourself, what's the joy set before him? You are. You are. You are the joy set before him. The whole reason he went to the cross is to save you. You're the joy that's set before him. That's why he ran that race. Because he saw all of you. And he loved everyone. And he wasn't going to let any one of you go to hell if he could keep from it. So he ran that race. He finished it. Provided a way. Look unto Jesus. If you're confused with how to live this Christian life, just look to Jesus. Go to the Gospels, read about Jesus, and let Jesus tell you how to do this thing called the Christian life. And Jesus will instruct you on how to do this. But he also instructs us in the letters of the epistles as well. And so today, are you planning on finishing the race? Maybe some of you are right there at that point where, man, I'm thinking about dropping out because life is really, really hard right now. And I don't think I want to do this anymore. Life can become real hard. We all know people who've had loved ones die. I mean, think about the mom that had 2 kids killed in a car wreck. How can a mom endure that? How do you live with that? That's hard. That's hard. That's hard. But God will give you the strength. God will give you the strength if you just trust him. If you trust him, he will give you the strength. I'm begging you, don't quit this race. Keep running, even though life is tough. And this morning, maybe we have someone who's never entered the race. You've never become a Christian. You've never given your life to Christ. You've never obeyed the gospel. Well, we're going to sing a song. And while we sing this song, it's really an invitation for you to come forward. If you want to know Jesus, you want to be born again, you want to enter this race, we encourage you to do that as we stand and sing.